Greetings. My name is Brett Pulliam, and I'm the president of the Educational Opportunity Fund Professional Association of New Jersey. Today, I am pleased and honored to be joined by Dr. Shani Carter, who is the current statewide executive director for EOF, Lisa Pantel, the board chair, and Dr. Glenn Lang, former Assistant Secretary of Higher Education for the state of New Jersey, as we seek to learn and understand from Governor Kean about the framing and building of a dream that resulted in increasing the educational and economic capacity for many students, irrespective of where they come from.
In November 1967, following the aftermath of the riots in Newark, New Jersey, the Chancellor of Higher Education, Ralph A. Dungan, proposed a program to help young women and men from disadvantaged backgrounds attend college. The following February, Governor Richard Hughes presented his moral recommitment message to the New Jersey State Legislature, calling for a broad range of programs to address the conditions contributing to the previous summer's unrest. Among those programs was the Educational Opportunity Fund that was sponsored by then-freshman legislator Thomas Kean.
There are many people who will view this session who were not born during the time leading up to the establishment of the EOF program. Could you describe from your perspective that period of 1967-1968?
Well, the background for EOF is the riots. And it's hard for somebody who lived through that time to recognize how terrible they were and what a shock they were to everybody, because nobody really realized how bad it was in the city of Newark, how difficult it was for folks. And when people rolled up and the riots occurred, everybody thought, what can we do? I mean, this can't happen again. I mean, what went wrong with the system? I was a brand new legislator. I got elected the year of the riots. And I was walking down the street with the shattered windows and everything else and ran into the president of Essex County Community College and said, what could we do for you? And he said, even though this is very cheap, there are so many students who still can't go simply because of money. And I thought that should never be the reason people are denied a higher education. Money should never be the only reason. And so we talked about putting in a bill to guarantee that students could go to college.
I think many people have a different idea of what EOF was going to be about in 1968 when a freshman congressman, Thomas Kean, came in and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put the legislation through for these students. 7 students who had tied themselves to a building and refused to leave, and what we know as the Rutgers Newark campus. Those were important parts of it starting. So when we start to look at the 50-year history and its 50th year, we need to know that in these 50 years, it's not about what we've got done, but what we will get done in the next 50.
Many of the students, almost all the students, and it didn't matter what, ethnicity or gender, that was irrelevant. These were students from disadvantaged backgrounds, financially disadvantaged backgrounds, but who showed academic promise to succeed.
If you're going to give people hope, and I've always thought, no matter what you're doing in life, people got to have hope. If you're going to give them hope, you have to deal with higher education. So when we came forward and said, this is the most important thing on our agenda, is getting this bill through, and we had bipartisan support for it, it had some clout.
A number of the initiatives that were enacted during that period of time have fallen to the wayside, but EOF has survived and thrived and become an essential component of our higher education system. We've graduated over 40 or 50,000 students, enroll about 13,000 students annually. Increasing numbers of students are performing well. What do you think has contributed to the program's longevity in comparison to those that have fallen by the wayside?
The wonderful thing about EOF is the people. I mean, it's the people you meet who've been through the program and give their own testimonials. And you see them all the time, and they're people you never would imagine. There's a wonderful young man who has been working at Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and I worked at that foundation for a number of years. And one day he came up to me and said, I want to thank you. And I said, what for? He said, I'm an EOF student. And I said, oh, I never thought that you. He said, oh, yes. He said, I wouldn't be who I am without that program. And you run into people all the time who will make that statement. I would not be here except for EOF. And when you meet those people and learn about their lives and their stories, how can you not be supportive? You have to be supportive. And I think that's what's happened over the years. That when even in tight budgets, people have said EOF has got to be our priority. That's got to remain.
There was always a struggle for funding, adequate resources, tuition has gone up, books are high, how do we support our students? And I always say at the end of the day, we fix it, because that's what family does.
What I would like to see in the next 50 years of EOF are that many of the students that we've been able to touch and advocate for them to come back into the fold, and for others that believe what we believe, which is that we should not ever look down on a person unless we're ready to pick them up and provide them with the opportunity to change their lives. I would hope within the next 50 years we will have galvanized enough support for the program where we would have the opportunity to double, at least, or even triple the size of the program.
Do you have any words of reflection or encouragement that you'd like to offer to the thousands of students currently enrolled in college who will be viewing this, and to the EOF program staff and administrators who serve at our institutions as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this program?
Keep it up. Just keep it up, because you've got a long trail of people behind you. You've got success stories, not only in New Jersey. I meet people in other states who started here, but their success, I've met people in Washington, and the success of this program is so great now. And you've got so many of a cloud of witnesses, in a sense, going before you. Be proud of what you do. Be proud of what you're doing to help these students, because I don't think anybody's doing anything more important than you are. EOF has always been a wonderful program. It's always been vitally important to individuals and to the state. Today it's more important, and I'll tell you why. When I first sponsored EOF, you could go out, you could get a good job. You could work with your hands. It was nice to have a college. You didn't really have to have a college education. You could have a good union job. You could make enough to support your family and your kids, and you could have a good life. That's less and less true now. Now people have to have a college education. That's the ticket to a life in the future that's going to be sustaining and good and help your family. So how do you get that ticket? Well, EOF. If you don't have the advantages that other people are lucky enough to have, and you're unfortunate enough to be born in a family that doesn't have the advantages, to live in a place that doesn't have hope, you're looking for something. And EOF is that key. EOF opens the door to college. If you can get that college diploma, then your life is going to be different. Not only is your life going to be different, but your spouse's life is different, your kids, your grandkids are going to be different. And I say it wasn't only me. It was people a lot of people who helped out. It was a governor who was willing to help and support the bill and sign it. It was the president of Essex County Community College who told me how deep the problem was with kids who wanted to go to higher education. It was my fellow legislators on both sides of the aisle who took that wasn't the most easy bill to vote for. A lot of them voted for a bill that wasn't going to help their constituents at all in some cases, but they supported it because they thought it was right. And that's what I remember. It's a time when we were in crisis because of the riots, and Republicans and Democrats didn't say what benefits me, what's going to help me in a re-election. They said what's right. And if you convinced them that you were doing something that was right, they supported you. We got to get back to that time.
Very seriously, I think that EOF and the funding and the academic, the sort of preparation of students, a diverse set of students who otherwise don't have opportunities to be on a campus, doesn't stop with some of us. I think that it continues, and in this global society is so much more important to make sure that these opportunities and the funding that comes with it continue to be protected and actually grow.
I think any program, no matter how good it is continually got to be looked at. We're coming into a new time. Technology, we're hitting a time that's going to be one of the most difficult, I think, in the country's history, in which technology, which has always been our friend in this country, is going to throw a lot of us out of work. One of the largest jobs in this country now is driver. Whether you're a truck driver, an Uber driver, a taxi driver, whatever you are, a driver. That's one of the largest employment factors in the middle-class jobs. We're going to have cars that drive themselves. That might be nice, but it's going to throw a lot of our neighbors out of work. All right, what are going to be the new jobs for them? And how do we get there? We've got to rethink a lot of the ways we've looked at ourselves and our state and our country. And we've got to do it together. We can't have this nasty name-calling and partisan stuff that's going on right now. We've got to get together because the problems are too big as they were when we did EOF. The problems are too big not to have us work on them together. And EOF is part of that solution. It's got to be, and I'm sure that thanks to the wonderful leadership EOF's always had, we're going to continue to look at its relevance and how it can change and how it can grow. I sponsored a bill which had the idea of allowing people to get a higher education and succeed in higher education who might not have otherwise. It was an idea. Just simply an idea, a dream if you have. And it's a dream that has succeeded beyond any imagination I or anybody else had. I mean, if you could think of 50,000 people, who've gotten an education now, 50,000 people who not only are having greater lives themselves, but their spouses and their children, and everybody and their grandchildren are better off because of that. I mean, that is beyond a dream. I mean, that is something that I consider my luckiest guy in the world, to have a dream like that and live long enough to see that happen. I mean, you feel your life has been worthwhile because of people. Because the people who've been through this program who say quite openly to me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a lawyer. I wouldn't be a doctor. I wouldn't be an educator. I wouldn't be whatever they are if I hadn't had the help from EOF. Now, what better if people, at my age, you like to have some legacy. You like to make some difference. Maybe your life has been worth something. I can't think of anything more important than that. People have had better lives because of something I was able to do. I mean, that makes me smile. I mean, it really does, because it's as good as it gets. I can't think of anything more valuable to a person than to have done something for others, but to be able to do something like this is a gift. And it's a gift that keeps on giving to me. But EOF is going to be there, and EOF is going to be there doing good, and EOF is going to be there giving kids opportunity and hope that they might have had not have had otherwise. And that's wonderful.